can't take from me!
Top 12 Omega Level Mutants with godlike powers. Yeah, mutants are strong alright. However, there exists a large gap between the average mutant and what you would call an Omega Level Mutant. When a mutant attains this coveted title, it simply means that there are no defined upper limits to their abilities. We all love Wolverine, but there's only so much you can do with a regenerative body and adamantium claws. This limitation does not exist for the ones who are going to be making it to this list. Omega Level Mutants are earthly beings with powers so immense that many of them can actually go toe-to-toe with celestial beings. It is not crazy for them to possess limitless cosmic powers, the most notable example for this being Jean Grey, due to her connection to the Phoenix Force. Marvel has revealed the names of the mutants that fall under this category. Even though there are millions of mutants, a humble number of mutants have actually been categorized in Jonathan Hickman and R.B. Silva's House of X #1 as Omega Level Mutants. In this video, we will talk about 12 such notable mutants who have achieved this title due to their broken abilities and enormous powers. Of course, we will also give you a little preview of their backstories and how their powers manifested in the first place. Before diving into the content, we would like to make a very small request to our viewers. Please subscribe to Marvelous Videos, like and comment on our videos, and press the bell icon to be notified whenever we upload a video. We would be grateful to you, and we hope to bring you the best nerdy content. So, without further ado, let's get right into the video. Magneto. Magneto is easily one of the most popular mutants out there. Originally known as Eric Lehnsherr, Magneto went through a super rough patch in his life before he became an Omega Level Mutant and the master of magnetism. During his early life, he experienced the horrors of working at the extermination camp at Auschwitz. This stunted the manifestation of his mutant powers. Later, he moved to Vinnytsia, where he gradually got better at using his powers. By this time, he was married and had a daughter named Anya. One day, Eric returned home to find his house on fire, while Anya was trapped upstairs. However, his superiors beat him up and prevented him from saving his daughter, who subsequently ended up dying tragically. She burned to death in front of her father's very eyes, causing his powers to go berserk. Eric ended up killing all the men who were holding him back, the crowd surrounding them, and a substantial portion of the citizens in Vinnytsia. Following this incident, his wife also left him. Here, he discovered his status as a super powerful mutant at the cost of his daughter's life. After this, he allied himself with Charles Xavier, who harbored feelings contradicting that of Magneto. While Charles Xavier wanted mutants and humans to live in harmony, Magneto rejected this possibility, as humans had rejected mutants for so long. Magneto went on to become an Omega-level supervillain who opposed the X-Men. With his enormously powerful mutant abilities, such as manipulating ginormous electromagnetic fields, generating force fields, forging electromagnetic blasts, controlling the iron in the blood, and manipulating gravity, Magneto is one of the most feared villains in the verse. What's more, he can manipulate matter and resist telepathic attacks, which makes him the ideal foe to go against a mutant like Charles Xavier. Number 2. Franklin Richards. He is the son of Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic, and Sue Richards, aka the Invisible Woman. When you have parents who have superpowers, it is only natural to be born with superpowers of your own. Franklin Richards was born with the ability to warp reality, and had already become one of Earth's most powerful Omega-level mutants by a very tender age. He had acquired his superhuman abilities from the same cosmic radiation that turned his parents into superheroes. Instead of manifesting those powers in his puberty like the other humans, he could use his powers since he was a child. He even led the Fantastic Four to one of their victories early on. Instead of allowing his powers to mature and get better with age, Annihilus placed Franklin within the bounds of a machine that triggered his psionic powers to its full potential early on. At that time, Franklin was too young to control it. His father feared that his power would destroy the Earth and ultimately had to put Franklin in a comatose state to save the world. After some time, during a fight between the Fantastic Four and Ultron 7, the energy from Ultron affected Franklin's mind, causing him to come out of his coma. Later, Franklin used his powers to age his body, but when he realized that he did not have the maturity to control it, he imposed psychic dampers on himself. As an Omega Level Mutant, Franklin Richards is able to see into the future in his dreams. He can warp or reshape reality into gaining unreal strength. The only thing that stops him from being the most OP mutant is his young imagination.
I don't want to fix it.
3. Jean Grey. She is one of the most popular mutants and needs no introduction. Her empathetic and telepathic powers speak for itself. Unfortunately for Jean, her powers manifested as a result of a very tragic incident. When she was only 10 years of age, her best friend Annie got hit by a car and died in front of her. The stress from the traumatic event awakened her telepathic powers and empathically linked her to her friend who was dying. This resulted in Jean entering a dark and depressed state at a young age. She also isolated herself from the world as she could not control her powers. When she met Charles Xavier, he revealed to her that she was a mutant. He blocked her abilities with psychic shields as she did not have the maturity to handle them, and helped her with developing her telekinetic abilities using the psionic force. Jean Grey is also connected to the Phoenix Force. The Hellfire Club corrupted the Phoenix, turning it into the Dark Phoenix, force of destruction and rebirth. Jean Grey's connection to it ended up inflicting several deaths, but lately, she was able to permanently reject this connection. In fact, she is not an Omega Level Mutant because of the Phoenix. Her abilities by herself are so powerful that it drew the Phoenix towards her. Jean Grey is easily one of the most powerful telepaths, psions, and users of telekinesis amongst the mutants. While being connected to the Phoenix Force, Jean Grey becomes the second most powerful of the abstract entities in her universe, after one above all. 4. Kid Omega, Quentin Quire. After Charles Xavier or Professor X returned as he averted a war with Genosa, Quentin Quire joined his Xavier Institute. He made his mark as a brilliant study early on, and rose the ranks to become one of the professor's most prized pupils. He was believed to be a super powerful telepath with a see-through mind, but in reality, his powers exceeded those limits. However, something about him was disturbing. Not long after, he banded with students cut from the same cloth as him, and together they overdosed a mutant drug named Kick. Following this, they killed and maimed a gang of humans. He also marked the X symbol on his arm with an Omega, and created his own gang called the Omega Gang. On learning that he was adopted, Quentin Quire's mind got destabilized. He was against Xavier's policies and did not believe in a world where humans and mutants lived in mutual harmony. He even debated with the professor about the policies of his school, and believed that Charles Xavier would not allow for any dream other than his own to exist. His status as a telepath that can rival Jean Grey easily makes him an Omega Level Mutant. He can create illusions, manipulate minds, create psionic weapons and shields, and influence others with his telepathy. However, the most powerful thing about him is his brilliance and intelligence, and this intelligence far exceeds that of a regular smart guy. His ability to absorb information is immense. His brain is almost like that of an overthinker, as it conjures millions of thoughts in a second. He can create a miniature world and trap people inside of it as well, making him a force to be reckoned with. His secondary mutation is responsible for evolving him into a non-corporeal life form that exists as a consciousness. 5. Rachel Summers. Rachel Summers is the daughter of Jean Grey Summers and Scott Summers from Earth 811. In this reality, things turn out differently compared to the one on Earth 616. Here, following the capture of Jean by the Sentinels, the Phoenix Force bonded with her instead of replacing her. Later, Jean married Cyclops and gave birth to Rachel, who was born a mutant. As she was born from the Phoenix Force that had merged with her mother, Rachel had the abilities of both her mother and father, such as telepathy and telekinesis, and she could tap into the Phoenix Force. She was raised at the Xavier Institute for Gifted Youngsters, where she came into contact with other mutants. She later joined the New Mutants. During an attack on the X-Men's base of operations by the federal troops, Rachel Summers turned out to be one of the only survivors. The soldiers neutralized her psionic powers with drugs. She was brainwashed by the sadistic Ahab. She eventually became a mutant hound who was conditioned to hunt down other mutants. Fortunately, she was able to break the brainwashing after the pain of a torture session got too much to handle for her. At the South Bronx Mutant Containment Facility, Rachel came into contact with some of the surviving members of the X-Men. Here, she was able to break her power-neutralizing collar. Considering her genes, it's easy to assume that Rachel Summers is an Omega Level Mutant because she is connected to the limitless cosmic powers of the Phoenix Force. Her psionic abilities transcend physics. She can even manipulate time and travel through time and space. She can manipulate matter and manifest chronoshields that protect her from any changes in the timeline. She has even defeated a cosmic entity as powerful as Galactus. All in all, she is one of Marvel's most powerful psychics. 6. Storm, or Ororo Munroe, is another one of the most readily recognizable mutants out there. Known for her extensive weather-manipulating abilities, Storm has only gained her status as an Omega Level Mutant recently. The daughter of an American photojournalist and a Kenyan tribal princess, Ororo soon became orphaned. She lived in Cairo, where she was a sneak thief. Interestingly, her mother was from an ancient line of African priestesses who could wield magic. During her run as a thief, she came across Professor X, who was able to sense that she was also a mutant. Ororo later reached her ancestral homeland at the Kilimanjaro Valley, where she was revered as a goddess due to her powers. Several months later, Professor X recruited her, as he needed her help alongside that of mutants from all over the world to rescue his students from Krakoa, a sentient island being. During this time, he explained to Storm her status as a mutant instead of a goddess, and how she had to use her abilities to help the world the same way she had helped her tribe. Ororo took up the offer and adopted the moniker of Storm as she wanted to learn more about her powers. Storm is often known as the Weather Witch. Not only can she control and manipulate the weather, she also has the potential to wield magic due to her ancestry. As a mutant, she can summon rain, fog, hail, thunderstorms, and powerful winds. What makes her more powerful is the fact that her powers are not bound to Earth. She can use natural energy to fight opponents in space, thanks to her deep connection to nature. She sees the energy of the world and can wreak havoc by causing earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and tsunamis. She also has a thermal variance and is resistant to telepathy, which is a bigger plus point than it sounds like because some of the most powerful mutants excel at telepathy. 7. Mr. M. Absalon Mercator, or Mr. M, is a mutant from Belgium. During a terrible accident, Absalon killed a boy who was bullying Ruben, his cousin. He turned the boy inside out, while the latter lived in that state for 3 days. Ultimately, he was sent to the United States to live with his relatives. In the US, he lived in Mutant Town in New York City. Absalon was a loner who often struggled with his sense of self and identity. However, he appreciated the quiet life. He would take up the job of fixing things such as toasters for a little bit of money here and there. After the M-Day, where a large portion of the mutants got depowered, Absalon managed to retain his and emerged to show them off. His near-limitless psionic powers gave him complete control over subatomic particles as well as energy. Not only can he generate heat and fire, but he can also create nuclear energy. He can reconfigure matter into different substances, alter the state of matter, and turn it back to its original state. He can also phase through objects, perform feats of telepathy and telekinesis, and has increased durability. In fact, he is considered to be too powerful even in terms of Omega level power scaling. 8. Iceman. Iceman, originally known as Bobby, was born in New York to a Jewish mother and an Irish Catholic father. While he was young, Bobby found himself unable to stop shivering. During this time, he discovered his abilities as a mutant. In school, he had a girlfriend named Judy Harmon. Once, a school bully convinced his gang to attack them. Bobby panicked and accidentally encased the bully in ice, which revealed his mutant abilities to his peers. The people of this town labeled him as a dangerous mutant and organized a lynch mob against him. They broke into his house, but the local sheriff saved Bobby and took him into custody to protect him from the mob. Ultimately, this incident reached the ears of Professor X. Xavier sent Cyclops to recruit Bobby, who turned him down. Later, Bobby ended up enrolling in Xavier's school for gifted youngsters and became a part of the X-Men. During this time, he learned to control his powers to help people and protect the world that ostracized him as he worked alongside Jean Grey, Cyclops, Beast, and Angel. Generally, he doesn't perform Omega Level feats, but certain encounters have caused his powers to skyrocket occasionally. Notably, his encounters with Emma Frost, Loki, and Mikhail Rasputin. Telepaths such as Psylocke have also unleashed Iceman's true potential by unlocking his subdued powers. His powers have gradually developed over time, allowing him to manipulate the temperature in his surroundings as he sees fit. He can create shields by freezing the air. His precise control also allows him to manipulate ice and water on a molecular level, allowing him to turn himself into living ice and creating ice clones of himself. He can even extend his consciousness into the ice and snow on the ground. He excels at thermokinesis, pyrokinesis, hydrokinesis, manipulating molecular moisture, and cellular replacement, all of which makes him a super powerful Omega Level mutant. 9. Exodus. The story about Exodus is an age-old one. Born in the 12th century as Beignet du Paris, he always felt as if he was different compared to the others. He could sense a deep power within himself from an early age. He grew up to be a crusader and befriended a black knight named Eobar Garrington. One day, the two friends set out to find the Tower of Power, a place which was the domain of the Eternal Pharaoh. During this time, the 20th century Black Knight Dane Whitman and Cersei had been transported to Beignet's era, and Whitman transported into Garrington's body. Garrington later abandoned the quest after coming into contact with Cersei, which angered Beignet. So, the latter set out to find the Tower of Power by himself. He faced great adversities, traveling through violent sandstorms and the likes. One day, he collapsed and a voice spoke to him, offering him power in exchange for him having to risk everything. Beignet agreed, and his psionic mutant powers manifested. Meanwhile, Cersei and Dane searched for Beignet, but were captured by Apocalypse. At the same time, Beignet transformed into the Exodus from the 20th century. Apocalypse ordered him to kill Cersei and Dane, but Exodus turned on Apocalypse, calling him a false god. Exodus was stripped of his power and sealed in the Swiss Alps. Dane later found him in a coma-like state which Exodus could not leave due to a curse. However, in the 20th century, he was freed by Magneto, and he took him to Avalon. Exodus eventually became Magneto's right-hand man. Since Exodus's power originated from Apocalypse himself, he is obviously an Omega Level mutant. He has superhuman abilities and is capable of flight. His vast psionic power makes him one of the most powerful mutants ever. He is also one of Marvel's best telekinetic mutants and can use his mind to lift ginormous weights. He can even enhance his physical strength and use the psionic to power himself up. Exodus is a psionic of highest order. 10. Legion. Professor X had a child with the Israeli ambassador to the United Kingdom, Gabrielle Haller. David Haller was born a mutant. It was later revealed from Moira McTaggart's journals that Moira and Xavier had engineered David's birth, as Xavier needed a mutant with the ability to warp reality. Moira had apparently identified a match for Xavier and settled for Haller, as she could help create the mutant Xavier was in need of. David lived in Paris with his mother when terrorists stormed into their home and killed David's stepfather. In a state of dismay, David used his latent psionic powers to fight back and ended up making telepathic contact with the assassins and his victims. As such, he could feel the anguish and emotions of his victims while he killed them. This horror traumatized him, and rightfully so, as he had a very gentle soul, causing David to end up in a catatonic state. The consciousness of Jemail Karami, the leader of the assassins, was also absorbed into David Haller's mind. After years, Karami was able to separate himself from Haller, and yet his consciousness remained within David. Meanwhile, David's personality had splintered into several other personalities, and each personality had a different psionic ability. Of course, the son of Charles Xavier would be a powerful mutant, but David Haller's powers turned out to be a lot more broken than one can imagine. Not only were his telepathic and telekinetic abilities powerful enough to cause large-scale destruction, but he had thousands of different personalities within him. This essentially gives David thousands of different abilities as a mutant, as each personality manifested different powers. He would create spontaneous mutations for his personalities, and turns out 200 of them were Omega level. It doesn't end there. There are more personalities being born in David's mind at all times. 11. Vulcan. Vulcan, or Gabriel, was the unborn child of the parents of Cyclops and Havoc, i.e. Christopher and Catherine Summers. When the Summers were abducted by Decken, Catherine was pregnant. Gabriel was removed from Catherine's womb and placed into an incubation accelerator. The device was used to breed new slaves. This aged Gabriel to prime adolescence quickly. Gabriel was then sent to Earth to be a slave to Devon Shikari. However, he escaped. He was later found by Moira McTaggart, while he had little to no memories of his origin. Moira then took him under her wing and instructed him with using his underdeveloped powers. Gabriel chose the codename of Vulcan after being inspired by Roman mythology, as Cyclops is also a name that is derived from Greek and Roman mythology. Charles Xavier soon recognized that Gabriel's mental imprint was related to that of Cyclops, who is his brother. Vulcan was an alpha-level mutant until the events of M-Day. He remained in inertia after being launched into space by Jean Grey, but the massive backlash of M-Day reawakened him. During this time, he absorbed parts of energies from depowered mutants, which boosted his alpha-level mutant powers to Omega level. He has the same ability to absorb energy like his brothers Cyclops and Havoc. He can manipulate energy of any kind, including the beams of Cyclops. He can also absorb power into his own body and channel it, which is how he turned into an Omega level mutant. He can use this to create force fields, generate destructive blasts, and fly. He can even manipulate the powers of other mutants.
What's happening?
12. Proteus. Known as Kevin McTaggart, he is the son of Moira McTaggart. He is a mutant who can warp reality. However, his powers damage his body by burning him out. As a result, he requires newer host bodies for self-sustenance. He is also weak to metal. He can manipulate the energy around him any way he pleases, warping his entire reality within a certain radius. There are no limits to this ability, minus the ones put on him by his imagination, as his body is made of psionic energy. However, this great power comes at a huge cost. Since the drawbacks of using his powers are so severe and unstable, his mother has confined him to a maximum security cell on Muir Island. When Kevin possesses a new host, he becomes even more powerful. Despite the cons, the effectiveness of his ability makes him an Omega level mutant. He can also conduct molecular reconstruction and generate force fields while being adept with telepathy, telekinesis, power absorption, and terrakinesis. What did you think of these mutants? Did you enjoy this video? If yes, then don't forget to like and comment on this video. Till then, goodbye and have a nice one.